Well, hi again, folks. We're back with a little introduction video on my, what I call for the time being, a deep well sluice. Now, I have several videos up here on the deep well Miller tables if you'd like to check them out. But anyway, here's the sluices that I've been working with over the past little while. And so I thought we'd take you on a tour of those and show you some of the capabilities of them. This sluice is one that my grandson designed and I built for him. And it has turned out to be a very nice little sluice, and I hope will work out very well for him for quite a long time to come. This is another design that I have been using, and it's worked quite well for me. It doesn't have the slick plate, and so the material you drop directly onto the mat. And that seems to do a pretty good job, because the gold just kind of sticks where it's dropped. Well, this is a longer version that I built, and I used it quite extensively during the summer. It has a longer mat and a slick plate. However, I found that if you control the water very carefully, the most of the gold is caught within the first 3 to 4 inches, so you really don't need a long mat. And about a 12-inch mat is probably about all you need for these if you're very careful with the water flow. Well, this is a new little sluice that I'm currently playing with, trying to find out what's the best design for the drop riffles on a drop riffle sluice. Yeah. And so with this one, I have taken and made a clear side panel on it so that I can watch the action of the sand in the water. And also, I can interchange the different riffles very easily by just undoing 2 screws and lifting it out, and then dropping another one in. Now, I have to run kind of fast water sometimes with this, so as you can see, on the end it also has a diversion plate, which forces the water straight down into the bucket instead of overshooting it. The idea of this design is that you have a deep well with the spray head set down inside. As it fills with water, the weight of the water on top keeps the turbulence down, and so by the time the water gets to the top of the slick plate, you have a nice smooth flow going over the plate. And this makes it very conducive to capturing the very fine gold. I have found that in my many experiments with trying to capture the fine gold, that turbulence is one of the big key players in losing it. And fast water and turbulence will just flush your very fine gold out just about every time if you're not careful. So this will give you kind of an idea of what the water flow looks like up close. As you can see, once it gets going, it's got a very nice smooth flow to it. With this very smooth water flow that you have, it's almost like looking through a sheet of glass. So that makes it much easier to kind of watch what's going on the mat and tweak your water flow so you get the dancing sands adjusted just right, and you can see if you're getting some gold. For those of you who have gold cubes and can't see down inside, here's kind of a bird's eye view of what you would see if you could. As you can see, once you spread the sand on there, the lighter material washes out almost immediately, and the heavier material stays down inside the pockets and keeps working, and eventually will clear out the lighter material and keep the heavier. Well, I guess it's time to show you how these things work. I thought I'd take you along on one of the first runs that we did with my grandson's sluice and let you see kind of some of the things that we discovered with it. Now, one of the things, if you have the matte version, is you have to work the air bubbles out of the mat very well. And a little brush will take care of that real quick. While I was setting up my lights and camera so we could shoot some footage on it, my grandson started running material on it. And so when I got finished up and started paying attention, I noticed he had the water level turned way down. And so I asked him what was going on. And he says, well, I found out with the low water level that this acts just like a Miller table. And the gold is dropping out right on the slick plate. What we determined was that on his sluice, I used the Helmsman spar varnish in a satin finish instead of a gloss finish. And so the gold likes to stick to that satin finish quite well. And so instead of having a slick plate, we ended up with a Miller table. So that was kind of an unusual turn of events.
That's my sluice.
One of the things I wanted to try with this design was to see if we could dump the sand and material down into the deep well and have it deliver it in kind of a slow, easy fashion down to the mat, rather than ending up dumping it all in one big gob. And that worked out quite well. And it had kind of an unusual result of this. It seems that the gold just dropped out down into the deep well, and the rest of the sand and material washed on down. Well, we ended up with nice clean gold with just a few of the larger pieces of black sand. So you want to clean out the black sand, I guess, ahead of time. What this was doing is acting as a fluid bed. So I decided to make another run, and I screened some material down to about 12 mesh and decided to run it. I removed as much of the black sand as I could so that we didn't have to deal with it. So what's happening is if you screen all the material to the same size, the gold will drop out and the lighter material will wash off. And so what you'll end up with in the bottom of your deep well is just your clean gold. The water flow I have here is not quite enough. I'm running a 80-inch sluice with a 264 gallon per hour pump, and for this it needed just a little more muscle, maybe about a 500 gallon per hour. By the time we were finished, we were left with just some nice clean gold sitting down in the bottom of the well. So about all there was left to do is take the old snuffer bottle and suck it up. Well, let's try this in the normal mode and see how it works. Now with this finish on here, if you'll look real close at the slick plate, you'll notice that the gold just kind of hangs up momentarily before going on down. And this is kind of good because then it won't get blown on out the mat. And it will slowly work its way down the slick plate and onto the mat. As you can see here, most of the gold is being caught within the first 3 or 4 inches, and that's the way it should work. If you're finding gold that's down towards the bottom or getting blown out, then you need to reduce the amount of water flow or the angle or both. Another thing you might notice is that the black sands are what's filling up the little pockets in the mat, and the gold just sits on top. That's why you want a real nice smooth flow with these Vortex mats, because the gold is just sitting up there in the open, and turbulent water or fast flow will just move them right on down the mat and on out. And if you have very fine gold, it doesn't take a whole lot of water flow to kind of move it out. To do a clean out on one of these is quite easy. We like to use a 1-gallon bucket to do the clean outs with, and so you just take and pop the mat out and put the end with the most gold in down first. Then you rotate it around to the different sides and work it up and down in the water to wash all the gold and sand and material off from it. Then you just pop it back in and you're ready for another round. With the cleanup, about all you have left out of the mat is about 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces of material, which isn't too bad at all. And so then all you have to do is take and swap out the sluice with a miller table and finish cleaning it up. I thought that some of you might be interested, as I am, as to just how fine a gold that this will catch. And so I took some of our urban prospecting material and screened it down to 30 mesh. And so this is all the minus 30 mesh and smaller that I got in this batch. And so I thought I'd run it out of curiosity to see just how fine a gold it would end up down in here. So it took a little bit of water tweaking and got it adjusted just about right. And so, as you can see, it's just kind of feeding it down the mat pretty nicely. After running some of these tests, one of the things I'm thinking about is that you could make a wide, short sluice that was a drop riffle, and you could just feed the material into the deep well, and the drop riffle would catch anything that kind of slipped out. And that way you could process a lot more material at a time and still keep that very, very fine gold. What we ended up in the middle with on this run was a few 30 mesh pieces, which we had hoped for. But the surprising thing was, if you looked very, very closely, and the camera had a hard time picking this up, was very, very tiny, tiny gold that is way beyond, probably minus 100. And this is some shots from both ends of the sluice where this had collected. So this will collect some very, very tiny gold like this. Well, I hope this will give you kind of an idea of how versatile these little sluices are. We're going to continue to work with them and explore them a little more so. If some of you are interested in building one or more of these, I will be doing a video on how to build them. So stay tuned here in the future. And so, as always, I want to thank you all very much for stopping by and watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye now.